And they say we need more black mayors and black lawyers. I say we need more black John Mayers and win Grammys for singing songs about our daughters, because we are caught in a culture of defeatism, worshiping victims and martyrs. We are not victims but victors, so we but witness or honor.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everybody. I'm Imam Muhammad Abdul-Jami, Imam of Masjid Al-Islam in Dallas, Texas. This is our series, Black Muslim Lives Matter, where we look to give voice to Black Muslim perspectives and explore solutions to challenges that face all Muslims living here in America. The end goal is to honor the responsibility we all have to establish an authentic, viable Islamic presence in American society. I'm joined here today with a very esteemed, honored guest, Sheikh Dr. Khalil Abdul Rashid, currently serving as the chaplain, Islamic chaplain at Harvard University. Thank you, Sheikh, for being with us today.
You're welcome. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good to be here.
Today on Black Muslim Lives Matter, we're going to talk about specifically the issue of cultivating our youth for leadership in the future. How do we do that? And I wanted to use, kind of as a source for that, an article, Sheikh Khalil, that you wrote recently that was published in American Muslim Today, where you spoke about kind of what it means or the importance rather of us getting the youth ready for the challenges that they're going to face. You mentioned in there that the next generation must be well-versed in the following, that it must be well-versed in what it means to be an American, the difference between cultural versus religious practices. They must have courage that's based on strong faith and not some other kind of whimsical agenda. I wanted to ask you, what do you think is our biggest failure as American Muslims in regards to preparing our youth for the future? How do we fix that?
I think it's a deep question. I think our biggest failures are actually two parts. One is that we don't know our history. And the second is that we are not literate enough in our deen. Right? We're not literate. So one has to do with our weakness in comprehending our text, the Quran. And by text, I mean our sacred text, the Quran, and the legacy, the Sunnah of the Prophet, our sacred text, right? So one is our communal illiteracy regarding our text, right? Our own text. And the other is our communal deficiencies regarding our accurate understanding of our context. So where we live, the historical trajectories that have impacted, that have led to the predicaments that we're in now, how our institutions got built, what are the struggles that have emerged in the past that animate our present condition, that can pave the way for the future. What is the narrative and the legacy of Islam in this country beyond just understanding that there were some slaves that were Muslim that were here, and beyond understanding a little bit about Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam. We are people of truth, and so we have to understand where are the mistakes, what kind of mistakes have been made in the past and in the present, and so that we can understand what our role is to contribute to the betterment of this country, right? So we can't contribute anything better to this country unless we understand the roots of the maladies of the past and the present as well. So the context matters. And then we can't advise our youth regarding the right way to live and the right solutions to the problems unless we understand what our text says. Otherwise, we'll be regurgitating somebody else's answer. We'll be presenting somebody else's solution. We'll be adopting somebody else's mantra and mandate. We won't understand what Allah Ta'ala and His Messenger have said in terms of how to live the correct way. We'll just be labeled Democrats and Republicans and progressives and liberals and conservatives rather than Muslims, right? We'll take on everybody else's label, but we won't lead in our own capacity. So that's been our biggest problem, lack of understanding of the text of the context.
Do you feel like there's a particular area or industry or field where Muslims are severely underrepresented that we should be sending our children out to? I know we have a tendency to, push them to be doctors or push them to be IT and thinking strictly in terms of where you're going to have a solid financial independence or well-being. But is there something you feel like are we missing and leaving some bases uncovered, so to speak?
Not in the professional sense, but in the vocational sense.
Okay.
So there's a difference between training our children and qualifying, putting them on the road to be qualified professionals. That differs from putting them on the road to be on the moral road to work in their vocation as moral servants of God, right? Moral representatives of Allah Ta'ala. So it's not that we lack competencies in the professionalization. Actually, you could argue that American Muslims are some of the most educated Americans in this country. And there's a lot of data that supports that. As a community, as a whole, we are very educated. The problem is we have an imbalance regarding our education. That's our problem. We excel in one thing and we're highly deficient when it comes to the Islam, what some might call, the Islamization of that knowledge. So, you can be an attorney, but how knowledgeable are you about Islamic law, for example? When it comes, you might be a teacher, but how knowledgeable are you about Islamic pedagogy and educational systems? You might be a sociologist, but have you read Ibn Khaldun's work and understood his work? You might be, someone who's working in the field of technology and development and research, but how well are you skilled in understanding the scientific contributions of Muslims in the past and what science means in terms of our Islamic epistemology, our Islamic understanding of how we gather information and how we, the moral limits of trying to change the world and trying to control the world, right? So that's what we lack. That's because we rely on secular institutions to educate our kids.
Is there a model, a program that you've seen in America that is effective or at least is promising in that regards in terms of providing the youth with an opportunity to be balanced in their education?
Well, at the level of higher education, Zaytuna, I think, is excellent. At the level of secondary education and middle school education, I think the closest we've come as a system could probably be the Claire Muhammad schools as a system. I think the Claire Muhammad schools were on the right track in that regard. I think that needs to be revamped and updated and enhanced, but they were certainly on the right track.
At Masjid Al-Islam, what you referred to, where we're at today is we have a Sunday school program. Our 5-year goal is to grow that Sunday school program into where we have a primary school full-time program and to build from there. But we know that long term, we're going to have a full-time Islamic school, private school, that type of endeavor. Okay. I wanted to just ask you about one last thing and pick your brain about one last thing.
Sure.
In the conclusion in your article, you said, we need bona fide Muslims who give in charity, who avoid useless pursuits in favor of strategically beneficial engagement.
Right.
Is there something specific that you had in mind or some things you had in mind when you said strategically beneficial engagement? What is it?
Yeah. We got to stop copping out. We got to have courage. We can't just compromise our teachings, just for political gains. We can't sacrifice our teachings and who we are, and compromise our values just to get ratings. We need, everybody else is authentic. Every other community comes to the table as an authentic community. Why is it that in some cases we have Muslim elected officials, or we have Muslim entertainers, or we have Muslims activists that are very concerned about being on the mic and in the public sphere and doing things for other communities but not our own communities, and then advocating in ways in accordance with certain values that are consistent with other communities but not our own community, right? So we need bona fide, for the Muslims that are going to be in the public sphere, then you need to be advocating for all communities, yes, but for American Muslims for sure. And people need to see you as a real Muslim, not as a Muslim, liberal, or a Muslim, conservative, for example. You need to be a Muslim. And then there's certain values, there's certain things that we stand for, and then there's certain things that are unique about our community. We just don't blend in to other communities like we're in a melting pot and just shed our identity. We have something to contribute. And so, that's what I mean. We don't need people to think that they have to be ashamed. That's not what we need. We need courage with conviction, not compromise with cowardness.
SubhanAllah. So I don't know of a better way to end it. Well, we can end it on that note. Sheikh Khalil, I feel very honored. I'm very grateful that you took the time out. I know you're a busy person, but I think that it's very beneficial for us to hear from you. Inshallah, we make dua that people benefit from this, that there's some understanding with this, and we can use this kind of as a guidepost as we continue to struggle to establish a strong Muslim identity for our youth. And so, inshallah, we'll be able to cultivate, the political leaders of the future, as well as business leaders of the future, etc., who, as you said, are proud and educated in their Muslim identity, as well as functional and efficient, in their profession and vocation. Inshallah, right now we're in the middle of a project. I don't know if people know, I try and say this every time I'm in front of an audience. We're building a new masjid. We have $1.6 million on hand. Inshallah, we're still on track to have a new masjid built by the end of 2021. That phase one, the phase one portion of that project is estimated to cost us about $2.2 million. But we're designing it in such a way that it can be expanded and we can grow it. And part of that growth is that we're going to have a gym in there. Part of that growth is we want to have a school in there. So we're thinking about how do the youth fit in? What is going to be their role? So I encourage all of our listeners out there, if you're able to, support Masjid Al-Islam, the work we're trying to do. Muslims, this is something I think that's a universal struggle for us. Particularly here in America in this environment, is how do we raise our children in a way that they're proud, functional Muslims in the future. May Allah give us all strength and success.
Ameen.
In that.
Ameen.
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 Sheikh, I appreciate you so much. So thank you for attending, and thank you all for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.